In bell curve, the biggest problem is that it is based on achievement of numeric targets. But then what is the difficulty level of the target? How do you assess the difficulty level? How do you compare the difficulty level between two different functions? So they say it is an objective assessment. There is a lot of room for subjectivity, there is a lot of room for manipulation, and all the wrong things can happen. Teamwork is the first casualty because only 5% can be super performers and everybody would like to be a super performer. So everybody else becomes his competitor or enemy. They will try to show down the performance of everybody else and project themselves. Does individual performer matter? According to me, no. It is the team performance which matters for the organization. And team is a chain and chain is as good as the weakest link. But then in bell curve, we nowhere talk of team. It is only individual pitted against individual. In order to please your employees, organizations have found one way, that is to keep promoting them frequently. But where are so many positions? So they started adding designations and hierarchies, and you had so many of them. Many years back, designation of a manager used to be a very senior post, and there used to be just one general manager who was the CEO. But nowadays you have general manager maintenance, by general manager you have vice president marketing. All these designations have got watered down. They have been derated. To keep people happy, the designations have been distributed freely. And I have seen some organizations where almost everybody is a vice president. Every MBA who joins, he becomes a vice president.
Hello friends, I am Avinash Khare, your host, and I welcome you to this series, Technocrat Talks. In this series, we will be dwelling on our blind spots, which have shackled our thinking and which have preconditioned our perceptions into a certain template. We have been suffering because of that. This we are doing through application of engineering sense and cold logic. Welcome to this analytical discussion. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe. Please press the bell icon to get the notifications. If you like the talk, please like it and share it with your friends, so that we increase the community of like-minded, curious minds to take the movement forward. Without much ado, let us start today's talk.
Do you think the performance assessment techniques being employed these days by the industry is fair to all roles, especially your favorite technocrats?
See, most of these performance appraisal systems have either come through generalist consultants who, like industrial butterflies, flock through various companies, but mostly those are all mass producing companies, and their focus is either IT people or IT services related people or sales and marketing workforce, which are by far modular workforce. Modular meaning something like an army, where any brigadier can be served by any other brigadier, any lieutenant can be served by any other lieutenant, any area manager can be replaced by any other area manager. So the positions and roles and responsibilities are highly modular, they are comparable, and therefore statistics can be readily applied to them. Whereas by definition, experts are exceptions to the rule. They are in their niche, in their ivory tower if you please, but well, they are specialists. They are supposed to go deeper in their domains, deeper, not wider. And therefore it becomes very difficult to take care of experts in performance appraisals, because it's not easy to compare two experts from different domains or an expert with a generalist manager. And because in any organization, experts are always in minority, right? So the performance appraisal systems that are adopted by the organization are targeted at majority always. And majority is the modular workforce where statistics can be applied. Therefore, the experts are supposed to be force-fitted into those templates and those KPIs and those metrics, which is meant for statisticians. Expertise, according to me, is not something where you should apply statistics. because that would be like comparing an apple to a pumpkin. How can you apply statistics? But then that's what is being done. This so-called bell curve or Gaussian curve, which is used for normalizing and for comparing peers coming from different functional areas and domains, they are force-fitted under the bell curve. Okay. So there are majority are average performers. There are very few, something like 3% or 5% who are super performers, and something like 5% who are gone cases, so they need to be dispensed with. Okay. And the balance are solid citizens, which are somewhere between the two extremes. Okay. So that's how the thing works. And actually in this one they have, earlier in good old days there used to be a queue system for reward. Means it used to happen automatically, like in government with seniority, promotions and increments used to come regularly, and people used to have a predictable career rise and the emoluments that they got. But then they started this caste system within the employees. So there is a so-called super performer class, there is a solid citizen class, there is a below par performer class, and there are dispensable class. Okay. So they have that caste system where they, by design, they are doing this, bhedbhav. They have legitimized this bhedbhav, where you can differentiate between what you give to different people. Okay. And that has been accepted because it is driven by so-called market forces, and stalwarts from management advocate it. So that's how it has happened. And industry has loved it because in the end they are able to save some money, and that's the sole target. So that's how it is. But experts, I mean, who's bothered about experts? The experts remain in their own shells, and in any case, many times technocrats are given a job profile where they become, within quotes, Markov punter. If anything goes wrong anywhere, which nobody is able to understand, they hang the technocrat for that. And it suits everybody, excepting the technocrat. So that's what is going on. And certainly it's not fair to technology development and to technocrats personally. But then, so be it. That's what it has been all these years. And that's the market trend. And that's all the more a reason to dissuade people from coming into this field. They would much rather go into a modular workforce. They will actually flock together in an elitist herd. See, our middle class bright boys are averse to taking risk. More than boys, their parents are. So they will try to drive them in an area where they are able to get into the elitist herd, where automatically they get the career rise and money and everything. It comes automatically. And they don't have to really exert too much or apply themselves too much, and like just to get admission is one part, but beyond that, the life is cozy. So that is the trend. That's how it has been happening.
How do you think the use of a bell curve to assess performance impacts morale and motivation in the workplace?
See, to be very frank, it takes toll on teamwork, first of all. Teamwork is the first casualty. Because only 5% can be super performers, and everybody would like to be a super performer. So everybody else becomes his competitor or enemy. So they will try to show down the performance of everybody else and project themselves. Now, are the organizations really happy about individual performers at all? Does individual performer matter? According to me, no. It is the team performance which matters for the organization. And team is a chain, and chain is as good as the weakest link. So, if the business performance has to improve, you have to improve the team performance. But then in bell curve, we nowhere talk of team. Okay, it is only individual, individual, and individual. Individual pitted against individual. Actually, earlier days in queue system and this kind of reward by seniority, there was some understanding. Everybody was comfortable with that. That okay, my turn will come one day. Okay, types. And the relations used to be really good. Okay, the camaraderie used to be there. People used to help each other sincerely. They had good relations. But then once you come in this super performer game, it becomes a rat race and everybody is your competitor, and then it vitiates the working atmosphere and work culture. People indulge into blame game, showmanship. And for some strange reason, senior management seem to like people who within quotes show performance. Show PPT, showing the performance graph. Those are the people who are overrated usually. The people who really toil and slog on the shop floor, I mean, they get overlooked because there is nobody to advocate for them, there is nobody to fight for them, and they can't fight for themselves. So that's the kind of thing which is happening, and it has become a kind of a syndrome. So the good organizations have terribly screwed their work culture thanks to this bell curve syndrome.
In your opinion, what are the key flaws of the 360-degree feedback systems for experts and specialists?
See, first of all, 360-degree feedback is something where all your peers, all your subordinates, all your superiors give their subjective opinion about you, mostly from behavioral aspects. Now, if you are an expert, others might not know what you are doing and they may not be able to evaluate you. I mean, as they say, the work of experts is not understood by anybody else. Only experts from the same domain can appraise it actually. Right? Just like in university system and PhDs, a scholar has to be assessed by a senior person from the same field who would have done research in that field, etc. It is something like that. So the assessment has to be from that angle. Any Tom, Dick and Harry around you assessing yourself may be good from behavioral aspect, from how he treats others, how is his communication with others by and large. But then experts are not known for communication and they are not meant for communication. Experts are meant for working in their area of expertise. Okay. And generally, people do not know experts. People are unlikely to like an expert because they never interact. They are not the extrovert type who will be talking about areas of interest to everybody and stuff like that. The kind of populist kind of thing will never be done by experts. Experts are much senior, much sincere, much sober, engrossed in themselves kind of fellows. So they are unlikely to be liked character among others. So 360-degree feedback is unlikely to throw up good feedback for an expert.
Can you explain the limitations of the Quick Rise scheme that uses a development center to assess potential for career advancement? And is it just an Indian thing?
No, I believe it's there. Basically, again, the same thing happens, that what has happened, that in order to please your employees, organizations have found one way, that is to keep promoting them frequently. But where are so many positions? So they started adding designations and hierarchies, and you had so many of them. In fact, many years back when I started my career, designation of a manager used to be a very senior post. And there used to be very few managers in a factory. And there used to be just one general manager who was the CEO. But nowadays you have general manager maintenance. Why general manager? You have vice president marketing. Okay. So all these designations have got watered down. They have been derated. And to keep people happy, those designations have been distributed freely. I mean, I have seen some organizations where almost everybody is a vice president. Every MBA who joins, he becomes a vice president. Okay. So that is what has happened to those designations. But as a result, what has happened that the organizations have become very tall in hierarchy. You have so many designations and you have invented those designations with prefixes, suffixes, additional general manager, like deputy general manager, assistant general manager, assistant vice chairman, and so on. Okay. As a result, the organization has become very, very tall. So even if one gets promoted every third year, I mean, still there is a big ground to cover. And then people realize that by the time a person goes in decision-making role, he would already be 50 plus. So how many more years he would have to be held accountable for whatever decisions he took. So there was a logical need that some youngsters should be at the top so that they can be held accountable for a longer term. Right? Now, how do you get young people there? So the scheme invented was the so-called quick rise scheme, where you have some kind of a development center where you select few. Okay. But more often than not, the selection process is done by some senior executive from the same company. So one thing is that it is fraught with the favoritism, nepotism, like whoever is a known face, whoever is in the role that he is. And people have been vying for cherry picking those kind of roles where they become more visible. And one way to become more visible is to make presentations to seniors. Now automatically those roles become coveted, where one is making a presentation to seniors about performance, about various things and all. It doesn't mean that whatever he is showing is done by himself. That will never be the case. Right? So people tend to pick people from those who are more visible in these development centers, and those who are better at communication, better at softer skill, better at generalist kind of this one. They have a very widespread but very less depth. So they know a little bit about many things, they are able to talk about anything, but then tell them to do a particular thing or solve a particular problem, they will fail miserably, because they have no depth in anything. So that is what happens. And so basically these things are designed to pick up some senior in the hierarchy, to make somebody senior artificially. Like you have techniques of testing where you quickly make something very old. I mean, okay, 10 million cycles of operation you repeat very fast so that the test can be finished in time. So this is something like that. Okay. So you age a particular individual while he is young, so that you are able to place him in top bracket while he is still in 40s. Mostly technocrats, these schemes are not for technocrats first of all. And technocrats will never be able to compete in the kind of yardsticks which they have. They will never be able to come up. Because technocrat will say, okay, I have designed something where I have solved this big differential equation. I mean, somebody will say, why did you have to solve differential equation? Were we not doing without it? Okay. So it will just fizzle out like that. No, there will be nobody who will be able to assess the real potential or the real worth of a technocrat in that kind of thing. And anyway, you can't make technocrat a general manager. Somebody has done PhD in designing something, say, let us say turbine design for life, he is supposed to design only turbine. He can't handle finances and HR and all those things which go with the higher level in hierarchy. So that's the problem. So mostly organizations never have a scheme to deal with experts. That is the pain point. Okay. While they are well versed with dealing with generalist managers, they are at loss to even assess the worth of an expert, and they don't have any scheme to compensate the expert for whatever his performance is. Not just an Indian thing, but okay, in Western world, inherently they have respected technology and technocrats to start with. So somebody with the super qualification, with a postgraduate, actually starts getting lot of respect from day one. Now here it is not like that. Here, okay, somebody who's MTech or PhD is one or two notches higher than the regular entrant. That's all. But that too only in the beginning, not after that. After that, they will forfeit you in bell curve, and according to bell curve, you will get weeded out to some fringe area, okay, in the performance domain. Yeah.
Do you think that overemphasis on hitting targets and achieving KPIs stifles creativity and innovation in the workplace?
See, the problem starts with the definition of innovation. Okay. In management parlance, if you do any technology-based improvement, they call that it is not an innovation. It's a small technical improvement. They don't recognize it as innovation at all. Because according to them, innovation is something which should affect the business. Okay. So if somebody starts selling shampoos in pouches, that becomes a business innovation. But a grand technology idea, technology implementation, technology adaptation is a small technology improvement. It's not innovation, according to their yardstick. According to their yardstick, innovation has to be driven by the business requirement. So if you ever compete in those competitions where they reward the innovative things, so-called innovative things, their assessment starts with why did you select this problem? What was the driver for innovation? So first, more than the innovation, you have to focus on what was the driver. Why did you have to do that? What was your target? And then later you have to prove that with this innovation you have surpassed that target. Now, innovation and out-of-the-box thinking is not something which can be target-driven, first of all. Innovation is something, suppose I am browsing through net, through smartphone I come across some wonderful technology development, which I feel instinctively that if it is implemented in my area, it will do dramatic improvement. I should be able to do it as innovation. But that is never regarded as a worthwhile innovation. It's a small technology improvement. Okay. So, in business parlance, everything is driven by the business KPIs. So, it is the business KPIs, it is the Excel sheet vision which will define what innovation ought to be and what innovation ought to do. Now, once you tie down an out-of-box thinker with all these leashes around, who do you think will be able to really do any out-of-box thinking? Another thing is, they talk out-of-the-box thinking in a very big way. When they don't know the solution, they say, try something out of the box. But frankly, no organization is ready for real out-of-the-box thinking or real path-breaking innovation. If you suggest an idea, it will get thrown out at the onset, who is doing it. So first you have to get the evidence who has done it. Now if you are following something which somebody has already done, then you are not innovator and you are copy master. So then by definition it doesn't become innovation, it becomes just following some benchmark. Okay. So once you are asked this question, who else has done it, what is the success rate, then it can't be the first time. So then it can't be out of the box. And it can't be a dramatic improvement. It has to be run-of-the-mill incremental improvement only. And then there is another thing that thanks to these consultants, they keep on importing lot of Japanese terminology, jargon. So you have to follow those jargons as a process to arrive at the innovation. Now that itself stifles the creativity. See, creativity is not something that you can force fit into a template. But that's what is being done. It's force fitted into template. Just as Technocrat is being force fitted into under the bell curve. All the great ideas, innovation is force fitted into some template. And it loses all the creativity and charm by the time you do it. It becomes just like a presentation gimmick. It becomes a presentation template. If you present in that template, you get selected, you get awarded, not otherwise. Okay. So that's the problem.
How can organizations encourage out-of-the-box thinking among their technical experts and specialists?
See, basically, for experts, within the organization, it is difficult to have an assessment system and a support system. So I firmly believe that you should have associations of specific technical areas to take care of that expertise element. Okay, and there are associations. Okay, like there is an SMFRA, I know, Sheet Metal Forming Research Association. It's a pan-India organization comprising of academicians and researchers and professionals. Now, such bodies actually can inspire out-of-the-box thinking among expert technocrats, and they are the best judges also, they can assess also. Okay. The organization themselves, the managers cannot judge a technocrat expert, forget it. If they try to do, that is what happens, force fitting into a bell curve and all that. In bell curve, the biggest problem is that it is based on achievement of numeric targets. Okay. But then what is the difficulty level of the target becomes the question mark. How do you assess the difficulty level? How do you compare the difficulty level between two different functions? Okay. That becomes subjective again. Okay. So there is a lot of room, though they say it is an objective assessment, there is a lot of room for subjectivity, there is a lot of room for manipulation, and all the wrong things can happen there. Okay. So that's another problem. And objective assessment of target, assigning of the target. First of all, numeric target itself promotes a tendency of driving through the dashboard. Now, would you like to ride a bus where the driver is looking at dashboard only all the time? Okay. It's like driving through the rear view mirror. Okay. Which also, I mean, we Indians are known for doing. Okay. Driving through the rear view mirror. But we also drive excessively through the dashboard without knowing where to go, without knowing the way forward. Okay. So, and without caring about the passenger comfort, not giving them jolts and jerks. Okay. If you are just worried about the mileage, okay, you can look at the dashboard. But then dashboard driving is certainly not good for organizations. So normally such associations will have some symposium, some seminars where they are allowed to present some of their work, and that gets assessed by a panel of experts. So they get encouragement, they get ideas, there is a lot of lateral learning, and they can compare relative to other experts, where do I stand. Okay. So according to me, that is the best kind of thing to assess an expert. But the HRs have to figure out a way how they link these things with their internal rating system, internal reward system and all. Otherwise, yes, expert will get a lot of claps once he goes in those events, but then back in organization, nobody will recognize him as anybody. Medical community, it is more prevalent, all these kind of events where they have seminars and interactions. Medical community, I think, is much better placed in dealing with expertise, because first of all, in medical, unless you do post-graduation, you are nobody. Okay. So post-graduation adds real value, whereas in engineering side, it is not the thing. In engineering side, if you do post-graduation, you are stamped for research and teaching kind of a job only. I mean, in profession, you don't require that really so much. Okay. So in engineering, I would say it is a luxury to have a post-graduation. In medical, it is a must. In medical, it is respected also. because it makes a difference. In day-to-day life, it makes a difference. A cardiologist makes a difference if he is examining a patient, obviously. But not so in engineering. A machine being attended by a PhD or an MTech fellow, it doesn't make any difference to the machine. And management cares to hoots. I mean, if they could do it, they would get a metric pass person to solve the problem of the machine. They may not even employ a graduate engineer for that. Right? So that's the problem.
How can organizations create a fair assessment system that acknowledges the unique challenges faced by technical experts and specialists?
I think in HR training, they have to introduce some content where they learn the techniques of assessing, say, researchers and experts and, senior designers, those kind of job profiles. Because other profiles are in majority sales and marketing and regular production line managers kind of a thing. That they are used to, that they know very well. But they are lacking in this training how to deal with an expert, how to promote teamwork in these kind of areas. Now, what HR thinks about teamwork? They will think that somebody who is very communicative, who is a dominating character in any group, is the best place to be a leader. Okay. So, when they would like to select somebody for a team, they would select all fellows which look like that. They will prefer all fellows who are communicator, all fellows who are outgoing and like who have a broad base and things like that, who are flexible, so to say. But then practically when you come to making professional teams, there can be only one leader in the team, first of all. If there are more than one leader, there are conflicts. So if there is somebody dominating, the others have to complement him. Now it is a big challenge to figure out what kind of competences are already existing in an existing team and what are the lacking competencies which should be supplemented. Now that kind of training HR needs. That in any existing work group, what is my skill inventory? Okay. What are the skill sets where the group is weaker? So what kind of person needs to be fitted there? Instead of going by some stereotypes that, okay, a person who is talkative, a person who is smart, a person who can quickly adapt, who can radically change whatever he was saying earlier, of being adaptive and all. Yeah. Those are all stereotypes which HR has been conditioned into believing that these are the best profiles for leadership positions. Actually, there are no such stereotypes in real world.
Do you believe that subjective assessments are inevitable in performance management? If so, how can organizations minimize their impact on experts and specialists?
Subjectivity is always there, we like it or not. I mean, just because we are converting everything into numbers, it doesn't become objective, by the way. It remains still as much subjective and as much debatable. So, by making things numeric, things do not automatically become objective, first of all. So, subjectivity will always be there. And subjectivity is not necessarily bad. Subjectivity is good also, because you see, whenever you want to have a human touch in your system, subjectivity has to be there. Things driven by numbers, things driven by automation, okay, these were a fad up to, let us say, an era of Industry 4.0. The moment you talk of Industry 5, there has to be a human touch. So there has to be subjectivity, there has to be a human variability, there has to be human creativity, human adaptivity. So in your system, these attributes also have to come somehow. You are not assessing machines. So you can't assess everything just by numbers automatically. Okay. That would be too inhuman. Okay. Once you want to have human touch, once you want to harness human creativity, human imagination, you have to have a human touch in your assessment, in the way you look at things, in the way you promote things, in the way you reward things. Okay. It can't be automated, it can't be numeric, it can't be something where you can apply statistics comfortably. No. So I firmly believe that let us refrain from treating our people as a statistical entity. Let us treat them as individuals. Let us allow them their individuality and let us assess them subjectively.
How can senior management and HR develop a more personalized approach to performance management that takes into account the unique challenges and situations faced by experts and specialists?
See, the guiding principle of HR says that for performance, you can give rewards and increments. Promotions have to come because of potential. So there are two things. One is performance, other is potential. Performance is what somebody has done. Potential is what he is capable of doing. Now the problem comes. Performance is easy to appraise because it is, for once it can be done with numbers. Okay. But potential, how do you rate with numbers? You can't. So potential assessment is always going to be subjective. And it's not that a manager who is immensely successful in X company, in X circumstances, will be equally successful in others also. There is no such evidence and doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Okay. There is no such thing as universally successful manager. Somewhere a person is successful because of various factors. Also because of the team that he may be having, because of other environmental conditions which happen to be conducive for him at that point in time. But it will not happen everywhere, every time. Therefore, you cannot guarantee that a so-called good performer will be good performer everywhere under all conditions. It doesn't happen. So when you assess potential, it remains a subjective area because potential is something that he has never done so far. You are only thinking that he is capable of doing. Now what makes you think that he is capable of doing? Just some kind of IQ test, some kind of tick mark test. Based on that instruments, you are declaring that this person is more capable of a senior position. You may be grossly wrong. Okay. Because in that new position, he would be in a team where he has to complement the lacking competences which are there in the group. How can somebody assess that? So potential is very difficult to assess. So whether you follow any template for assessing potential or you just do head tail, the outcome is similar. The outcome is similar. But promotions are based on potential. Now in case of expert is an expert because of something that he has been doing. So how do you assess potential in an expert? How do you assess something which he has never done? In that niche domain, whether he will be able to do. Again, according to me, HR cannot do it. It can be senior academicians from that field only who can assess that.
What steps can organizations take to create a more supportive and collaborative work environment for experts and specialists?
Okay. It's an interesting question. It's interesting because, you know, you say you want to compare a generalist manager with an expert. How does one compare? You should look at your hand. Now, all these are experts. Now, all these are experts, but experts cannot see face to face. Can fingers see face to face? They can never see face to face. That's the problem. That no two experts will ever be able to see face to face. Then what has to be done? In the hand, what happens? This happens. Now, what is this? This is thumb. This is the leader. Leader has to be able to interface with all experts one to one. For that, leader has to have maximum flexibility. And okay, in lighter vein, leader can be Angutha Chhap. He can approve things. Okay. He can do tilak and he can do this also. Leader has to have all these qualities. So if there is a good dynamic leader who is able to interface with all experts, who is able to understand all the experts subjectively, who is able to mediate between them as well, that is what would create a conducive work culture for experts. Okay. I hope I have illustrated what I meant.
Well, with this, we have come to the end of today's talk. Please take this movement forward. Please share it with your friends. Open Mind is an engineer's workshop, and our goal is to engineer our future. Please press the bell icon to get further notifications. Please like if you have liked the talk, and please do let us have your feedback, your ideas, your comments, your suggestions. Hope to see you in the next talk, Technocrat Talks. Till then, be happy, enjoy. See you next time. Bye-bye.